When 3 o'clock in the morning almost took them away, Jimin chasing Jungkook, love breaks out under the rain. Don't you dare get on that plane, Jeon. The scream ripped through the almost empty terminal like a gunshot, slicing through the humid silence of 3:04 a.m. Rain battered the glass windows in waves, relentless and wild, like the chaos inside Jimin's chest. His feet pounded against the polished floor, the echo of his frantic steps chasing after him as fiercely as he chased the one person slipping out of his life. Jungkook didn't turn. He walked faster toward gate 17, his shoulders hunched beneath the weight of a black hoodie soaked with rain and silence. A voice called out his name again, broken, breathless, familiar, but he kept moving. Jimin's lungs burned, not just from the sprint across Incheon's endless terminal corridors, but from the sheer ache of what he knew was slipping through his fingers. He was too late, always too late. He didn't know how long he'd been running, not just tonight, but for months now. Running from the things unsaid, from the way Jungkook's gaze lingered just a second too long when he thought no one was looking. From the quiet way Jungkook laughed at his jokes, even the bad ones. From the truth. "Stop," Jimin whispered, not sure if it was meant for Jungkook or the universe or his own spinning thoughts. His wet clothes clung to his skin like regret. The clock above gate 17 blinked mockingly. 3:07 a.m. The boarding doors hadn't closed yet. Jimin surged forward, slipping on the rain his own shoes had brought in from outside, nearly colliding with a stunned gate agent who looked too young to witness the implosion of two hearts. I need to talk to him." The agent opened her mouth to object, but Jimin had already stepped past her, calling Jungkook's name with a desperation that cracked through the sterile air of the jet bridge. Jungkook stopped. Slowly, as if turning back would cost him everything, he looked over his shoulder. Their eyes met. The silence was deafening. Rain still hammered the terminal's windows. Lightning flickered like a warning across the sky, illuminating the contours of Jungkook's face, his sharp jaw clenched tight, his eyes stormy with defiance and something else Jimin didn't dare name. "Why now?" Jungkook asked, voice low, brittle. "Why only now?" "I didn't know it was real until it was too close to gone," Jimin said, chest heaving. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair," Jimin snapped. Then, softer, "But I'm here. Isn't that worth something?" Jungkook let out a bitter laugh, more breath than sound. He turned fully now, still not closing the distance between them. "You think showing up in the rain makes it right? You think chasing me through an airport undoes everything you didn't say before?" Jimin's mouth opened. No words came. Because Jungkook was right. He had stayed silent when he should have spoken, distant when he should have reached out, scared when he should have been brave. And now, Jungkook was leaving, not just the city, not just the stage they used to share, but maybe Jimin's life altogether. "I was trying to protect what we had," Jimin said finally, voice trembling. "If I said it out loud, it would have changed everything." "It already did," Jungkook replied. "Every moment you chose silence, it changed me." Jimin took a step forward. Jungkook didn't move. "I loved you," Jungkook continued. "Maybe I still do, but I can't keep waiting for you to figure it out when I'm already halfway gone." Outside, thunder growled. The storm gathered again, merciless and loud. Jimin stood there, drenched and trembling, knowing that he'd arrived just in time to be too late. Jungkook turned, walked toward the open jet bridge door. Each step felt like a countdown. Jimin could feel it in his bones, something shattering. The rain didn't stop. The world kept moving. The gate agent looked away. Jimin took a breath that burned his lungs and reached for something he never dared name. "Don't go," he said, loud, clear. Jungkook paused mid-step. "I'm in love with you," Jimin said. The words cracked like lightning. "And I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry it took me this long to say it." Jungkook's back was still to him. Jimin saw the tension ripple down his spine. "Say something," Jimin begged. But Jungkook disappeared through the door. The gate agent winced, her voice soft. "Sir, you need to step back. The gate is closing." Jimin stood frozen. 3:12 a.m. He didn't cry, not yet. He just stood there, heart thunderstruck, the scent of rain and jet fuel mixing into a memory that would haunt every second that came after. Behind him, the rain blurred the glass. The city remained dark. The clock kept ticking. And Jimin, left behind, whispered to the empty air, "Don't take him away." "You kissed me and then acted like it didn't mean anything." Jungkook's voice was low, trembling with fury and restraint. "You lit the match and left me burning alone." The hotel room door slammed behind them as Jimin stepped inside, chest soaked with rain, eyes wild with desperation. Hours had passed since the airport, but not the storm. Not the one outside, not the one between them. Jungkook stood across the room, duffel bag still in hand. He hadn't boarded the plane. He hadn't left. But he didn't stay for Jimin. Not yet. "You think I don't know that?" Jimin's voice cracked as he threw his wet jacket onto the floor. "I've hated myself every fucking day since that night." "Then why?" Jungkook snapped, his composure breaking in a flash of hurt. "Why didn't you say something? Why did you look me in the eye the next morning and pretend it was a dream?" Jimin ran a hand through his damp hair, packing like a man caged by his own silence. "Because I was afraid. I thought if I named it, if I said it out loud, I'd lose you completely." "You already did." Jungkook's words sliced deeper than any scream. He dropped his bag with a heavy thud. The hotel room was dim, lit only by the yellowish glow of the street lamps outside filtering through the curtains. Rain slapped the windows like applause for a tragedy unfolding. "You don't get to come running into the terminal like a fucking romantic drama and expect me to fall into your arms." "I don't expect that," Jimin yelled. God, I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't let you leave without hearing it. Not again." Jungkook laughed bitterly. "So this is about your guilt?" "No." Jimin took 2 steps forward, reaching as if the air between them could be pulled apart. "This is about everything I should have done before. It's about the way my chest hurt when I saw your seat was empty on the van. About every song I couldn't sing right without you in the studio." Jungkook turned his back to him, his fists clenched at his sides. "Remember Busan," Jimin said, softer now, voice cracking on the memory. "We walked along the beach for hours. You told me you hated the ocean, but you stayed because I loved it. You were shivering and smiling at the same time. I knew then." "Then why didn't you say it?" Jungkook whispered. "Why wait until I was walking away?" "Because I loved you more than I loved my own courage," Jimin said, brokenly. "Because I didn't think I deserved to keep something that beautiful." Silence stretched between them. "I'm tired," Jungkook finally said, turning around, his eyes glistening. "Tired of being your almost, your maybe tomorrow." "You weren't," Jimin said, stepping closer. "You never were, you were always everything." Jungkook's breath hitched, 1,000 unshed tears balancing behind his lashes. "But I'm not your secret anymore," he said. "I won't be hidden behind backstage curtains or whispered in hotel corridors." "You won't be." Jimin's voice was fierce now. "You never should have been." Jungkook looked at him, searching for something, truth maybe, redemption. The rain outside sounded like 1,000 hearts breaking in unison. The air was thick with everything they hadn't said, until now. "I wanted you to fight for me," Jungkook said. "Just once, not when it was convenient, not when it was cinematic. I wanted you to want me in the daylight." "I do," Jimin said, "and I'll prove it every damn day." Jungkook exhaled, stepping back, his heart visible in every twitch of his mouth, every tremor in his voice. "Then start now." Jimin didn't hesitate. He crossed the room in 2 steps, hands trembling as he cupped Jungkook's face like he might disappear if he blinked. "I love you," he whispered, forehead resting against Jungkook's. "I love you, I love you." Jungkook didn't move, didn't speak, but his tears told the truth his lips wouldn't. Then, without warning, he kissed Jimin. Not gentle, not sweet. It was a kiss of fury, of longing, of betrayal and forgiveness, and all the nights spent wishing this moment into existence. Jimin kissed him back like he was drowning in him. When they finally broke apart, both breathless and shaking, Jungkook laughed, wet and exhausted. "You're such a bastard." "I know," Jimin smiled faintly. But I'm your bastard if you'll let me be. Jungkook didn't answer. He just leaned into him, resting his head on Jimin's shoulder, and for the first time in months, they both let the silence hold them instead of their fears. But just as peace seemed to settle in the dim-lit room, a phone buzzed violently on the nightstand. Jimin froze. It wasn't his. Jungkook reached for it, his expression shifting as he read the message. Jimin saw it, just a glimpse, but enough to shake him. Unknown number. He told me you'd come back to him. I warned you. Jungkook's face turned pale. He dropped the phone. What is that? Jimin asked, a dark chill crawling up his spine. Jungkook didn't answer. He just looked up at Jimin, suddenly hollow. I think we're not alone in this, Jungkook said. Outside, the rain got louder. Who the hell is texting you at this hour? Jungkook's voice was sharp, but underneath it throbbed something rawa, fear. Not the kind of fear that came with jealousy. This was the kind that crept into your bloodstream when you realized something was wrong on a level you didn't understand yet. Yanked didn't respond. His eyes were still locked on the screen, unblinking, as though the words might change if he stared long enough. I said, I don't know, Yanked finally whispered, his voice thinner than glass. I've been getting them for weeks, always from different numbers, always about you. Jamin stepped closer, slowly, like approaching a wild animal. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if I wanted to believe them. Jamin flinched. What are they saying? Yanked looked up at him, and for the first time there was no heat in his gaze. Only confusion, exhaustion, and something else Jamin couldn't name yet. They say you're still seeing him, Yanked said, his voice almost inaudible. That you never stopped. Jungkook's blood turned to ice. What? He breathed. You know who I'm talking about. The room pulsed. The sound of rain seemed to disappear. Only the weight of that unspoken name lingered in the space between them. Jungkook's jaw clenched. If you mean Minkook. Don't say his name, Yanked snapped. Silence. Jamin backed away a step, rubbing his hands over his face. That was over a year ago. You knew that, you know that. Do I? Yanked spat. Do I really? Because 2 weeks ago I got a photo, him, rooftop bar, same night we canceled practice. Jungkook's heart dropped into his stomach. I was meeting him to tell him to stop, he said quickly. To make it clear I wasn't interested. I didn't know someone was watching. You didn't tell me. Because I didn't want to drag you into something that was already dead. I didn't think it mattered anymore. Yanked gave a bitter laugh. You didn't think I mattered enough to know. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Jamin, Yanked said. You don't get to play martyr when you've been keeping secrets. I'm not the only one, Jamin shot back. You think I didn't notice how you disappeared after Tokyo? How you stopped answering my texts for 3 days? You think I never wondered what you were doing? Jungkook's nostrils flared. Don't twist this. Then stop acting like I'm the only one who broke something. Their voices echoed in the room, loud and unfiltered. They were standing inches apart now, every word a weapon, every breath another chance to destroy or forgive. I loved you, Yanked said, his voice cracking. I gave you everything I had left. So did I, Jamin screamed. But it was never enough for you, was it? You wanted me to be perfect, to never hesitate, to always say the right thing, feel the right thing. I wanted you to be honest, Yanked roared. The room fell into a sudden, crushing silence. Jamin blinked slowly, his throat tight, his chest rising and falling in sharp, shallow breaths. I've never lied to you, he said quietly. I've been messy, scared, confused, but never dishonest. Yanked looked away. Then the phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, Jamin reached it first. He snatched it up before Yanked could stop him. His eyes scanned the screen. Unknown number. You don't know who's really lying. But I do. Keep watching. Gate 17 was just the beginning. What the fuck is this? Jamin murmured. He turned the phone to show Yanked. What does that mean? I don't know, Yanked said, voice hollow. A beat passed. And then a memory hit Jamin like a freight train. Gate 17. The voice on the PA system when he ran through the airport. The flicker of recognition on the face of the gate agent. The strange feeling he had that someone was watching even before he got there. What if this isn't just some obsessive ex? He said, almost to himself. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. What are you saying? I'm saying, Yoongijungkook's voice trembled. What if someone trying to break us apart on purpose? You think we're important enough for that kind of conspiracy? Jamin stared into Yoongijungkook's eyes, steady now. Yes, he said, I do. They both fell silent. The air felt heavier, denser, like the storm outside had seeped into the walls. Then the landline phone rang. They both jumped. Jungkook hesitated, then picked it up slowly. Hello. Silence. Then a voice, soft, distorted, but unmistakably human. You really shouldn't have come back, Jungkook. Click. Jungkook slammed the phone down, stepping back like it had burned him. Yoongijungkook's heart thundered in his ears. What the hell is going on? Jungkook shook his head, voice hoarse. I think someone wants us to unravel. Jamin stepped closer, placing a hand on Yoongijungkook's shoulder. Then we don't let them. You sure you still want this? Jungkook asked, searching his face. Jamin nodded. I'm more sure now than I've ever been. Another buzz, a different phone. Yoongijungkook this time. He pulled it out and stared. A photo. Them. Taken through the window. Unknown number. I see you. Don't get too comfortable. Jungkook saw the screen and went pale. Pack your things, he said. We're leaving now. Where? I don't care, Jungkook said, grabbing his jacket. Anywhere but here. Jamin nodded. Because the storm outside wasn't just rain anymore. It was the sound of something bigger, darker, and much more dangerous rolling in. And someone out there wanted them broken. Or worse, gone. The motel room reeked of mildew and secrecy. Flickering neon light bled in from the broken vacancy sign outside, casting an eerie red glow over the cracked wallpaper and sagging mattress. Jamin locked the door behind them, sliding the chain into place. Yank dropped the duffel bag with a heavy thud, eyes scanning the corners of the room like he expected the walls to start whispering. I can't believe we're doing this, Jamin muttered, pulling the curtains shut tight. Running like fugitives in the middle of the night. We're not running, Jungkook said, tone clipped. We're surviving. The silence between them was like glass, sharp, reflective, ready to shatter at the smallest pressure. The adrenaline had carried them from Seoul to a nameless town 2 hours out, but now it was wearing off, leaving only raw nerves and the weight of questions that didn't yet have answers. Jamin sat on the edge of the bed, face in his hands. How did it get this bad? Jungkook leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Maybe it was always this bad. We just refused to see it. No, Jamin snapped. Don't do that. Don't rewrite everything like it was doomed from the start. Yoongijungkook's jaw clenched. Then how do you explain this? The threats, the surveillance, the fucking messages? Who have you pissed off, Jamin? I should be asking you the same thing, Jamin said, eyes narrowing. You think I don't know you have ghosts? That perfect idol mask you wear doesn't fool me. Jungkook stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. What exactly are you accusing me of? I'm not accusing, Jimin said, standing to meet him eye to eye. I'm begging you to stop pretending this is just about me. Jungkook flinched, and that was all the answer Jimin needed. You know something, Jimin whispered. I know that if I tell you, it'll put you in more danger. Too late for that, Jimin said bitterly. They've already seen us. They've already sent pictures. We're in this together now, whether you like it or not. Jungkook stared at him for a long moment, then turned away. He walked to the far wall, resting his forehead against the peeling wallpaper. Before you, he began slowly, I was seeing someone. Jimin froze. Jungkook kept talking, voice quieter than the wind outside. It wasn't serious, at least not to me, but to him, it was everything. He started showing up at rehearsals backstage even when I never gave him the address. I told him to stop. I ended it clean. He didn't. Jimin exhaled, shaking. And you didn't think to mention this when the threats started. I didn't think it was him, Jungkook said. I thought he was gone. His agency got involved. There were NDAs, it was buried. Jimin paced, panic rising in his throat like bile. So this could be him, this whole thing. I don't know, Jungkook admitted, but he's not the only one. What? Jungkook turned, eyes haunted. The industry's full of people who want to own you, who don't know the difference between love and obsession. And we, he gestured between them, we're not exactly low profile. Jimin sank to the bed again. So what do we do? Jungkook joined him, sitting close but not touching. We start by being honest. No more hiding. No more protecting each other with silence. You tell me everything. I tell you everything. Okay, Jimin said. Fine, then here's something I never told you. Jungkook looked at him, bracing. I almost left the group after Japan. Jungkook's face went blank. What? I had the papers. I was going to walk. Everything felt wrong. The pressure. The lies, you and I, we'd kissed and then pretended we hadn't. I couldn't live like that. Why didn't you go? Jimin turned his head, eyes burning. Because you smiled at me. One night, just a look. And I thought maybe, just maybe, there was still a reason to stay. Jungkook reached out slowly, his fingers brushing against Jimin's hand. The touch was electric, grounding, like a lifeline thrown across a ravine. I'm sorry, Jungkook said, for all the things I didn't say. I'm sorry for the ones I did, Jimin replied. Their hands stayed linked, trembling slightly, neither pulling away. Then came the knock. 3 slow raps. They both froze. Another knock. No footsteps, no shadow under the door, just that cold, rhythmic knock. Jungkook stood up, motioning Jimin back. He approached the door, quiet as breath, and looked through the peephole. Nothing. Empty parking lot, no one in sight. He turned back to Jimin, whispering, No one's there. Then, from the other side of the room, behind the bathroom door, came a soft click. They both spun. The door creaked open. No one should have been inside. Jimin reached for the bedside lamp, grabbing the heavy ceramic base like a weapon. Jungkook moved first, pushing the door open wide. Nothing. Just a mirror, a cracked sink, a dripping faucet. But on the mirror, written in fog, was a single sentence. You should have let him go. Jimin stepped back, heart hammering in his chest. Jungkook moved toward the mirror, wiping it with his sleeve. No one, no sign of entry, no noise. Then the lights went out. Total blackness. Jimin reached for Jungkook in the dark, found his hand, clutched it tight. The silence stretched. Then a voice whispered, close, too close between them. Tick-tock. The lights flickered back on. No one else in the room. Just 2 boys with tangled hearts, hunted by something neither of them understood, standing in a motel that had just become a cage. And outside, the rain began to fall again, harder this time, almost like it knew. Who the fuck just whispered in my ear? Jimin's voice was shaking, not just from fear, but from rage. His knuckles were white around the base of the lamp, the same one he'd now lifted like a bat, eyes darting toward every shadow the broken ceiling light dared to throw. No one was here, Jungkook said, but the way his voice trembled betrayed the words. I was holding your hand. I didn't hear a door. I didn't feel movement. Then how did they write on the goddamn mirror? Jimin snapped. How did they breathe into the glass if they weren't in the room with us? Jungkook didn't answer. Because there was no answer. They stood in the middle of that motel room, the walls too thin, the air too thick, with 1,000 unspoken questions pressing on their lungs like water. Jimin lowered the lamp, only slightly, as he paced, head in his hands. This is punishment, he said bitterly. This is karma coming back with claws for everything we buried, for every lie we told to the world, for loving each other in silence. Jungkook looked up, lips parted in protest, but he said nothing. He couldn't. because somewhere inside him, a dark voice was whispering the same thing. Tick-tock. Jimin stopped packing. We need to call someone. Who? Jungkook's eyes were haunted. The label, our manager, they'd bury this. They'd send a cleanup team and a press release. They wouldn't help, they'd erase it, us. Jimin met his gaze. Then who? Jungkook hesitated, then reached slowly for his phone. He scrolled through the contacts and paused. No, Jimin said instantly. Not him. He was a friend once, Jungkook replied, before he turned into a tabloid headline. He's a snake. He's a hacker, Jungkook corrected. And right now we need someone who lives in the shadows. Jimin crossed his arms. So we trust the guy who leaked Hobai's dating photos 2 years ago. Jungkook looked him dead in the eye. We don't trust anyone, but we use who we have. He hit the call. The ringtone buzzed twice, then a voice answered, half amused, half sleepy. Well, 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 said the voice on the other end. Look who finally remembered I exist, if it is Seoul's favorite forbidden love story. Taehyung, Jungkook said, ignoring the venom. We need help. The line went quiet. Then, is this about the texts? Jimin's blood turned cold. You know, he asked, stepping closer. Taehyung chuckled darkly. Please, the second someone tries to screw with either of you, I get pinged. You have no idea how many sickos live on the dark net just waiting to exploit your shadows. We're being watched, Jungkook said. Followed. Someone whispered to us in a locked room, wrote messages in the mirror. We need to know who it is. Of course you do, Taehyung said. But information isn't free, JK. Jimin snatched the phone. If you want payment, I'll wire everything in my account right now. Taehyung laughed, low and cruel. I don't want your money, I want a story. What? You too, the real thing, how it started. What really happened that night in Paris? Jimin's grip tightened on the phone. You think this is some romance novel you can trade for gossip? No, Taehyung said. I think it's leverage. If something happens to you, that story becomes proof. A weapon. So tell it to me, all of it, or I won't help you. Jungkook took the phone gently from Jimin's hand, his voice like a blade. You get us the name, the location, the IP address. Then you get your story. Taehyung paused. Deal. The line went dead. Jimin sat down heavily on the bed, staring at the floor. You're seriously going to tell him? He asked. Jungkook didn't sit. He stood by the window, watching the parking lot outside. If it keeps you alive, I'll tell the whole world. That made Jimin look up. For a second, the motel room wasn't hell. It was a cathedral, a quiet sanctuary where truth was a holy thing. But the moment passed, and the next one shattered it. A knock came again, but not at the door. This time, it was the window. They turned in sync. The curtain shifted slightly. Jungkook moved first, yanking it open with a force that nearly tore the rod from the wall. Nothing. Just the parking lot, empty, silent, the wind carrying a plastic bag like a ghost across the gravel. Then, from behind them, the TV screen turned on by itself. Static. And in the static, flickering shapes. A silhouette. A voice. You should have kept lying. The screen cracked, literally shattered from the inside, and the motel light above them burst with a loud pop. Sparks rained down. Jimin screamed. Jungkook pulled him down, shielding him as the glass fell like acid rain. When it was over, the room smelled like burnt wires and terror. They both stood slowly. And there, on the shattered TV screen, written in black ink like it had bled through the glass. I'm not after both of you, just one. Jimin backed away. Jungkook stared, his lips parted. Who? Jimin whispered. Which one of us? Then Jungkook said something he hadn't said in months. Words that once meant safety, warmth, belonging. But now they carried the weight of doom. Taehyung, he said, there's something I need to confess. Jimin turned slowly. The look in Jungkook's eyes wasn't just fear. It was guilt. Bone-deep, breath-stealing, soul-ripping guilt. And in that moment, Jimin knew. The real ghost in the room wasn't the one knocking on windows or breathing through mirrors. It was whatever secret Jungkook had buried inside himself. I never meant for it to go that far, Jungkook said, his voice rough, like gravel under a tire. Jimin didn't move. He stood frozen between the flickering shadows on the motel wall, heart hammering in his chest like it wanted out, like it couldn't bear to live in a body that was about to be betrayed again. The words were just hanging there in the air between them, words that weren't even finished, but already bleeding. Go on, Jimin said coldly, folding his arms across his chest. Tell me. Jungkook's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. It started before Paris, before Minhyuk, before any of that. Jimin narrowed his eyes. Started what? I was in contact with someone, Jungkook said slowly, deliberately. A journalist. At first it was harmless. He wanted backstage stories, minor gossip. I never gave him anything real, just scraps. Things to keep the heat off our backs. It bought us privacy. Jimin's face contorted. You sold us out. No, Jungkook stepped forward, shaking his head. Not like that. I never gave him your name, never anything about us. I swear. But he kept pushing. He said the rumors would die if he had a better headline, something bigger, so I gave him a name. Jimin's lips parted, but he couldn't speak. He didn't know how to breathe in a room that suddenly felt like poison. I gave him Minhyuk, Jungkook whispered. I made it look like he was stalking you. The silence was so loud it felt like thunder. Jimin took a step back, like Jungkook's words were knives. You what? He said, voice hoarse. He was getting too close, Jimin, Jungkook said, pleading now. He was showing up at studios, texting you from burner numbers, sending flowers to the dorms. I knew something was off, so I gave him to the press, made it look like he was obsessed. They ran with it. The media tore him apart. And you never told me, Jimin asked, eyes wide with disbelief. I thought I was protecting you, Jungkook cried. I thought if I could keep your name out of it, I'd be doing the right thing. You destroyed someone's life, Jimin said slowly, voice shaking with rage. You weaponized a story and fed it to the wolves, and you didn't even give me the chance to decide if that's what I wanted. Jungkook looked like he'd been slapped. He was dangerous. That's not your call, Jimin exploded, stepping forward now. You think I needed saving? That I was too fragile to handle him on my own. You took control of my narrative. You stole my voice. I made a mistake. No, Jimin hissed. You made a choice. Jungkook blinked rapidly, his chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. Jimin turned away, packing like a caged animal. His hands were trembling, rage buzzing under his skin like electricity looking for somewhere to escape. And now someone's after us, Jimin said darkly, because of a lie you told years ago. I didn't know it would follow us, Jungkook whispered. But it has, Jimin said, and it's hunting us in motel rooms and airports and in our own goddamn reflections. A sharp knock cut through the room again. This time, neither of them moved. It wasn't at the window. It was from the wall. 3 distinct knocks, coming from the wall shared with the room next door. And then again. 3 more. Steady. Deliberate. Jungkook grabbed the lamp again, this time not out of fear, but instinct. Jimin was already crossing the room. He pressed his ear to the wall. A breath. A whisper. You took him from me. Jimin stumbled back. Jungkook's face was white. I think it's him, Jimin said. I think it's Minhyuk. He can't be, Jungkook replied, eyes darting. He moved to the US, he disappeared. Or maybe he was waiting. They didn't speak for a moment, just listened. The rain had stopped. The silence outside was unnatural, as if the whole town had been muted. Then the power went out again. This time for good. The red emergency light in the hallway cast a devilish hue through the bottom crack of the door. The air grew colder. And then, the fire alarm blared. Smoke, real, thick black smoke, began to seep through the vents. Get out, Jimin shouted. They grabbed the bag, their phones, and ran. But the hallway was empty. Dead empty. Room doors stood open, like hollow mouths. And at the end of the corridor, scrawled in what looked like ash or ink on the exit sign, were 4 words. Confess or burn together. Jimin grabbed Jungkook's hand. We run. They tore through the hallway, down the stairs, bursting into the parking lot, only to find all 4 tires of the car slashed. Another message scratched into the windshield. One of you deserves it, the other just watched. Jungkook looked at Jimin, breathless, terrified. I don't think this is about the past anymore, he said. I think it's about who we are now. Jimin stared at him, heart breaking and still somehow burning. And I think, Jimin whispered, whoever's doing this doesn't want us dead. Then what? They want us to destroy each other. For a second, they just stood there under the blood-orange glow of the emergency light. Smoke still clung to their clothes, and somewhere inside the building, a scream echoed, not loud, not human. Jungkook reached for Jimin again. But this time, Jimin didn't take his hand. Not yet. The air was thick with dread, a silence so sharp it could split skin. The motel stood behind them like the skeleton of a nightmare, burnt, empty, and echoing with the soundless scream of every memory they tried to bury. Jimin's hand hovered just inches from Jungkook's, but he didn't reach back. Not yet. Because something inside him had snapped, not with rage, not with betrayal, but with clarity. They stood beneath a flickering streetlight on the edge of nowhere. Smoke curled from the building behind them, black tendrils fatting into the sky like ghosts finally exhaled. And then, in the distance, a faint mechanical chime began to play from an old church tower. It was 2:58 a.m. Tick, tick, tick. Jimin finally turned to Jungkook, his voice raw. I can't keep running from this, from us, from what we've done, what we've become. Jungkook's mouth parted to speak, but nothing came out. He looked smaller under the light, like the weight of all the choices, all the silence, had compressed him into a shadow of the boy Jimin once loved under stages and city lights. I want to believe you were trying to protect me, Jimin continued. I want to believe this all started with something good, but love, real love doesn't feel like this. It doesn't leave smoke in your lungs and blood on your name. Jungkook stepped closer, desperation leaking through every inch of him. Then let's fix it. Jimin smiled sadly. We can't fix something if we're still lying to each other. I told you everything. No, Jimin said, a tear sliding down his cheek. You told me what you had to, but you never told me why. Jungkook's shoulders tensed, his fists clenched at his sides. And then, finally, he broke. Because I was afraid, he whispered. Afraid that if I didn't control the story, someone else would. That if people found out about us, they'd twist it, ruin you. I loved you so much it made me selfish. Jimin closed his eyes, letting those words crash into him. And then came the third knock. Not from a wall, or door, or window, but from inside their own minds. Like a memory returning. Like trauma, finally knocking to be let in. Jungkook's phone buzzed once. One last message. You told him, now he chooses. Jimin stepped forward, taking the phone. His reflection looked back at him in the black glass of the screen, hollow-eyed, battle-worn, but alive. And then, behind them, headlights. A single black car rolled into the lot. Quiet, too quiet. It stopped just feet away. The driver's door opened. Minhyuk stepped out. Alive. Older, thinner, pale. But unmistakably real. Jungkook tensed like a wire about to snap. I thought, Jimin began. He never left, Minhyuk said, voice cold. Not really, just waited. Minhyuk took a step forward, and in his eyes was the fury of 1,000 days spent in silence. You made me into a monster. You fed the world a lie, and it swallowed me whole. So I decided if I was going to be the villain in your story, I'd write the ending myself. He looked at Jungkook. You ruined my life. Then he looked at Jimin. And you let him. Jimin's voice cracked. I didn't know. Minhyuk's face twisted. That's the thing about love, Park Jimin. It makes you blind until you bleed. He pulled something from his coat. Not a gun, not a knife. A phone. I documented everything, Minhyuk said. The hacking, the threats, the surveillance. I never wanted to hurt you, but I wanted you both to feel what I felt. Powerless. Alone. Hunted. Why not just go to the press? Jimin asked. Because pain deserves silence, Minhyuk said. Noise would have made it poetic. I wanted you to sit in it, stew in it, until you broke. Jungkook stepped forward. So what now? You want revenge? No, Minhyuk said simply. I want closure. He dropped the phone on the pavement and stomped on it. The screen shattered like glass under a scream. No more whispers, no more games, Minhyuk said. You'll live with what you did with each other. He turned, got in the car, and drove away into the night. Gone. For real this time. Jimin and Jungkook stood there in the smoke and silence, hearts raw and bleeding from truths too long buried. The church bell rang. 3:00 a.m. The moment everything began. And now, the moment it ended. I don't know what comes next, Jimin whispered. Neither do I, Jungkook said. They looked at each other. No longer idols, no longer prey, no longer lovers hiding under borrowed light. Just two boys who had broken the world in the name of love. And now had to decide if it was still worth saving. Jimin reached for Jungkook's hand again. This time, he took it. No words. Just warmth. No promises. Just presence. And together, they walked into the night. Not to escape, but to begin again.